bring in our guest. Joining us to discuss this hour is national trial attorney Michael Jaafar. Michael, great to see you. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us on the program. I want to get your general thoughts about what's happening here. We've sort of outlined this for the last hour or so. You have on the one hand a young man, 17 years old at the time of the crime, but also now about 19 years old, been in jail for about 18 months or so. The question is, what should the judge do in this case?
I was hoping you'd ask that question because I want another opportunity to say how difficult it is to be a judge. This is actually a very difficult decision, and here's why. This judge is going to have a decision that's going to transcend what he does in this case. Here's why. He knows, the judge knows that eventually they're going to have to release this person. They're not going to be able to keep this kid in jail for 100 years. They're eventually going to have to let him go. And so the question then becomes, what will happen? What's the chance of recidivism? What's the chance of him harming somebody in the future? Because if we release this kid in 3 years, 4 years, 10 years, whatever the case may be, what if he harms somebody? What if he does something more severe? And the reason that that becomes so complicated is because you're seeing them now deal with an issue within an issue. What do I mean by that? Mental health is an issue, but autism is a separate issue within that issue because there's bipolar, there's schizophrenia, there's depression, there's manic depressive, there's a lot of mental health disorders, but almost all of them have medication and treatment. Autism does not. And so how do you know, if you're the judge, that this person's not going to come out and lash out 10 years from now, 5 years from now, right? It would be a little less complicated if this person was dealing with severe bipolar, manic depression, schizophrenia, right? Some of these disorders even can go away over time. There's theories that say that schizophrenia goes away when you hit 40, right? And even if it doesn't go away, there's medication, there's injections, there's ways to have, a guardian ad litem. There's treatment, but autism does not. And so this is significantly complicated. And that's why I believe that they had to postpone the sentencing and they had to really, really do their homework, because we all know that the people within our ecosystem, within the jurisprudence system, try to protect the public and also try to protect their reputations when they make decisions. And if you decide to let this person go after a certain amount of time, it's on you. And one more complicating thing is the Baker Act, which in Florida, the Baker Act makes it theoretically possible. It's not, it's highly unlikely, theoretically possible to keep this kid in prison for decades if he needs more and more treatment. Again, it's theoretically possible. I don't know if it's ever been done. But in Florida, they have a special act to guide what the practitioners in the mental health system do. There's stringent laws. This young man is going to have right to counsel. He's going to have many appeals.
Yeah, and
so
Mike,
this judge is going to have a very difficult
one
decision.
second. He was, in fact, Baker acted at one point.
Yeah, he was. He was,
yeah,
and he did. But I just have to add to that. Listen, the environment of a group home versus a prison and how he's going to be treated, we have to take that into account, too, because it may be the way he's treated in prison causes him to react with violence, which spirals downward in terms of his abilities when he gets out.
Yeah, again, just so many factors to consider. Michael, stand by. All right, folks, welcome back. We're going to continue now with our coverage of this hearing and the teacher beaten case involving Brendan Depa. Brendan Depa was 17 years old when he assaulted a teacher on what is now pretty much a viral video. Severe injuries, and now the judge has to determine. And he has three options, Judge, remind us.
Yes, so the defense is really good at outlining. We have traditional adult, we have youthful offender, and we have juvenile sanctions. Let's just bring back in quickly our national trial attorney, Michael Jaafar. Michael, you know, I think both sides doing an excellent job highlighting all the potential arguments, the opportunities for the court. I think that I am landing on, I think this judge is going to go with the adult options, given the history, the vicious violence, and the prior interventions that didn't work. Your thoughts?
I was going to say that this judge should go with whatever he would sentence a person not dealing with autism, which would be the adult version. And I'll tell you why. Because at the end of the day, by sentencing him that way, he should not get a break by having autism, right? He should not. He's not like a nonverbal autistic person. He's a person who could appreciate the wrongfulness of his conduct. So what I was going to say was, I think the judge should sentence him as though he is not dealing with autism, but then he adds the caveat that he needs to get mental health treatment. And the reason that I think that that would be fair is because with the mental health treatment, they could conceivably keep him in jail much longer than they would for a person who was rehabilitated who was not dealing with autism, because there's at least infrastructure within the prison system to treat people with mental health issues. I've told you multiple times how lacking our system is in the United States on people who have not yet committed a crime but need mental health treatment, and they end up committing a crime because there's no treatment before that. Florida's a little bit better than the rest of the country, but a lot of the states in the country are not that good. So I think this judge should sentence him with the adult version, with the caveat that he needs to get mental health treatment, because you give a minimum, but there's no maximum at that point. The minimum is, here's what I'm sentencing you. If somebody not dealing with autism would have beaten somebody within an inch of their life viciously, right, I would sentence them to X, whatever, 15 years. I know the minimum is 3.5, 15 years, 10 years. This is how I would sentence them because of the depravity of the conduct. And I'm not going to give you a break because you're autistic. And oh, by the way, you need to get treatment. So that's what I think, Judge Ashley.
All right.
Yeah, fair enough. And again, I don't think juvenile covers it. I think you want to have control of him.